Hey, everybody, it's Chris Aiken from the Classic Metal Show and the Aftershocks podcast. And I know you want to see this next episode, but right before we do it, just want to remind you that if you have an Amazon device, whether it's a TV or a Fire Stick or Fire Cube or whatever it would be, a Fire Box if you're old school, make sure you add the CMSPN to it. Just look up CMS Podcast Network on your Amazon device. Add the channel, and you will get every episode of all 4 shows for free right there on your TV. Make us part of your TV viewing every single day and night, all right? It's the CMS Podcast Network, cmspn.com, and it is now on Amazon. So get it, all right? All right, here's the episode you came to see.
You are about to enter the Shockwave Skull Sessions podcast on shockwaveskullsessions.com. And now your host, Bob Nalbandian.
Let's do it, man. Shockwave Skull Sessions. We got a great episode here. We got returning guests. Always a pleasure to have you back, Mr. David Ellefson. What is going on?
How are you, Bob? How you doing? Matt, how are you?
What's up, Doc? What's up, Dave?
And we got Drew Fortier.
Ahoy,
Fortier.
whatever strikes you.
What
French,
accent you
Fortier.
got?
Fortier.
Fortier.
What were you called in one of the first press releases, or one of the first things that came out for the book, they called you Drew Frontier.
Oh, that's for
right?
no cover.
Drew Frontier.
There you go.
And no cover. I played on that track, which it was down.
That's right.
Featuring
That's
Chips
the
Enough and
record
Drew
label,
Frontier.
Chips Enough and Drew Frontier. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? Chips Enough is on Frontier Records, so it kind of goes hand in hand, right?
There you go.
sense.
Maybe that's it's
Say
all
it.
plausible excuse.
So you can say you own the label.
Oh yeah, totally. Drew
There you
Frontier
go.
sounds like a Star Trek character or something.
Yeah, Drew Frontier.
All right, Drew Fortier, David Ellefson's partner in many projects, which we're going to get into. And of course, my lovely, beautiful partner, Matt
Lovely,
Hartnett.
beautiful. Love the words, Bob. Thank you so much.
I'm trying to be, cordial these days. That's cordial.
But yeah.
What's going on, Matt?
What's going on, Bob? This is going to be great, man. A little different now. No, not music today. We're focusing on the movies. So
That's
I'm
correct.
pumped up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get them on before some of the other podcasts talking about the music, especially that podcast Aftershocks. Shit, man, we got to get them on before that stupid ass
I
podcast.
thought this was Aftershocks.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, Matt's a part of Aftershocks. I'm sorry, Matt. I didn't mean to discount that. But the Skull Sessions is the original because David and I, we go way back, right, David?
Man, we got to always tell the origin story here. So I remember I moved to LA in 1983. I meet Dave Mustaine, fresh out of Metallica. Of course, people like yourself and a whole slew of fanzines from the underworld who were really the supporters of the scene until you got up into Hit Parader and Circus and, the big mainstream ones. And so we went to the beach. I met you.
That's
Was
right.
it Redondo Beach or Hermosa?
No, it's
or
Huntington.
something?
You guys
Huntington,
came down
that's
to
right,
Huntington
Huntington.
in
Yep.
Winnebago, which I thought was interesting.
And we hung out at the beach. Me and
We
Dave
hung
and
out,
Bob.
and it was
chilling at the
freezing.
beach.
It was January 1984. I remember because I still have the tape. And we did that great interview. I think you were like, we were all kids. You were like 18, where I was like 18, and and that was. I remember David called me up a few days before and told me that he's out of Metallica and he wants to tell the story. And boy, he did tell that story in the interview.
He told some stories. Oh my God! I remember going on. What was the radio station up in San Francisco?
KUSF with Ron Quintana.
Yeah, with
Ron Quintana, Ian Cal.
Oh my God, with Ron. Oh yeah, we went in there and everybody had a few beers and oh my God, Dave was just going off and it was. I mean, he had no filter. It was sure entertaining. I mean, my God, you would just like. Dave in a lot of ways, he was like the Howard Stern of rock and roll guys. Like Dave said things on the air that were just forbidden.
Back in the early 80s.
The early 80s.
Before Howard
in
Stern.
the same way Stern would say stuff that was forbidden on radio, Dave would do the same thing on radio and TV. And you're going, holy cow, dude, can you say that on the air? And he would say things, and the phones would light up, and people were just like, people loved it. It's like Dave was the interview that they knew if they just got him talking, if they kind of baited the interview a little bit, they got him talking, and oh my God, it's like, he was he had a lot to say, and in a way most would never say. So it's it's kind of was our funny man, straight man routine, I guess, between Dave and David. I guess that's
that was
kind of the dynamic.
The best thing about Dave Mustaine and what people appreciate about him, and that was he just spoke the truth. He spoke however he want, honest. He didn't care. Notice my Megadeth wristband.
And I even pulled out of the stack of shirts today. This one recycled up to the top.
Cool.
This was like some fan T-shirt, and some fan made this. I remember we were all wearing them like every day. One of us had one of these on when we're flying, on a fly date or something. So it's you know how it is in the black T-shirt pile. Things just cycle up to the top, and you're like, I'll wear my Armored Saint shirt. Oh, I'm gonna wear my Kiss Destroyer shirt today. Well,
yesterday
this was your lucky day. This one
yesterday, what came up in my pile was the Ellefson coffee shirt, which I probably wore.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very
and by the way,
which of course we have here.
Yeah, of course. I'm not wearing this just to impress David. I've got this a carpal tunnel kind of thing from on my laptop, my wrist, and I got to tell you, this is the best cure for it. It absolutely helps. So. Dave Mustaine, there you go, Doctor.
So the Megadeth wristband actually serves a medical purpose, which is,
absolutely yes. There you go. All right, well, dude, let's get started. Matt, why don't you kick it off? You had a chance to watch Dwellers, right?
Yeah, man. It's great, especially the first thing I was thinking of when I was watching it in the beginning. One thing that stood out to me right away was the comedic bits, the humor in the beginning there, which I thought was awesome because you get ready to watch a horror movie, and here it is, and I'm kind of laughing out loud to myself with some of these bits that you guys did. Just the independent film thing is what's awesome. You guys reminded me. Drew, Doug, and was it the guy? Was it Drew, Doug? Who's the third guy in there?
Jeff.
Who am I talking about here? Sorry, 1 second.
Who is it, Drew? You're leaving him hanging.
You're leaving me hanging, Drew. You leave me hanging.
Drew.
1 second.
Was it Jeff?
Drew's he's got
the main characters: Drew, Doug, and
Jeff, right? No, or
Jeff?
Is it no?
Drew looks
Edwards.
Edward. Yeah, the main. Yeah.
Oh,
I think Drew. It's one of those StreamYard freeze moments where everything freezes and someone has to drop out to come back in.
Or maybe he was just embarrassed that he didn't know the cast.
He's on Wikipedia looking it up. He's on IMDb. Who is that guy?
He doesn't want to show us that he's online. Now he's going to come back. Oh yeah, of course it was. Yeah,
it's like forgetting the guy in your band. And your drummer, wait, hang on, let me look that up. Yeah.
Well, I always forget the drummer.
James
and the bass player. Whoops, sorry about that.
Yeah.
James,
James Edwards. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, James
we got to have
Edwards.
Drew back in for this bit. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now for a word from our sponsor.
So he should pop right back, right? Or do I have to do anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll pop.
That happens on StreamYard. I've found from time to time. Like, so one of us will freeze, and then you got to jump out and cycle back in. But
yeah. Well, Dave, why don't we, I guess, talk with you before Drew gets in here? Obviously, this is your first foray into the film business here.
it is.
So, what is? Obviously, is this something? I know you've got a whole slew of things going on with books, coffee, the MP label. So, is this something you've been thinking about doing for a while? Getting into the films or producing?
Not at all. I haven't thought about doing any of this stuff. I wasn't thinking about writing a book. I was thinking about being in the movie thing. I wasn't. All this stuff just lands in your lap one day. Like the phone call comes or the email comes, and it's like, hey. Got this film, and hey, why don't we make you the producer? And it's like, all right, well, what does a producer do? We'll figure it out. And it was interesting because and I'm happy to loan my name to things that I like that are like you said, this one's funny. It's a cool movie. It's got Drew's great with the self-deprecating humor.
Yes,
he's got a great levity. Like you say, you're getting ready to watch what you think is this daunting, scary movie, and you're half laughing because there's funny bits in it.
Totally.
Right out of the gate, it starts with that, and then Drew's frustration is he's trying to get down to filming the movie and conning all of his friends into getting it done, early on.
Yep.
But so he's great with that. But it's funny the producing role for me, again, they kind of wrote me into the script as part of that, and then that's a kind of a narrative of a sub-narrative, if you will, of the movie. But, I realized, I have the record label, EMP Label Group and Conway Records, and by way of my distributor, I have a method, a platform for physical and digital distribution. So Blu-ray, DVD, plus, you know, things over to Amazon and Hulu and this. And so I was like, wow, who knew? Like, you know, I've already, like Spinal Tap, somebody already within the organization, you know, it's, I've already got, you know, the platform for this. And, you know, I noticed when we were at Mad Monster HorrorCon back in February 20th, when we actually rolled the film out and we showed the movie at that convention, that, you know, some other people started coming up to me going, whoa, hey, you got a film company. Well, I've got a documentary film here, and I have something I might call you on to put out through your film company. And I realized film creators are no different than musicians. You know, musicians write songs, they make albums, and then they walk music business going, all right, who's going to sign me? You know, I've got an album, and it's very frustrating for me too. I mean, I've been in a lot of bands. A couple of them successful, a bunch, maybe not so much, you know. So I've been doing this my whole life, and even at, you know, even at my age and my you know, career, when you make a new record with some new, you know, maybe some friends, we get together, we make a record, and we love the songs. You're still starting all over from scratch because you have to build, you know, sort of you have to market it, tell the story, who is it, what is it, why does this exist? And that's that's why I formed the record company, was to basically to have a platform for my little pet projects and to have a place that I can just put these things out. And so in doing that, I was able to help a lot of my other friends put records out. Now the same thing's happening with the film business by me and Drew putting Dwellers out through my my distribution network. We're getting calls from other people going, hey, can you help me out? So, you know, I figured, look, it's a blessing. Why not? If I've got the, you know, the avenues to do this stuff, I think it's a cool thing to do for our friends in the business.
Yeah, cool. No, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm hitting up Drew right now just to make sure.
He fell out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tried to pop in a few times.
Could have had a tornado or lightning storm or something over there in Indianapolis where he lives, you know. We were doing an interview the other day, me and Drew, and literally this guy, the host, would just go dark. And me and Drew would be the only two singers. And it turns out that the guy, he literally had like an electrical storm, and it fried his laptop. It fried his computer.
That's crazy.
I said, can you restart my computer? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all good, Drew. We're just talking about you here now. There you go. If you're not in the room, be careful. We're going to be talking about you. Same with me. If I fall out, I know you fuckers will be talking about me.
All right, time to badmouth Drew. Well, here we go. No, seriously, I do love the way he filmed it and the filming of it. Yeah. It's you know, it's all in black and white, and it's and as you said, you play yourself in the movie as the label / movie owner, and it's great. You and Tom are in the movie as kind of I guess it'd be kind of a big cameo, and you play yourself.
Yeah,
and
kind of the more pissed off version of me, which I guess people probably as you.
Well, dude, I was gonna say I've never seen you upset like that before, and I've seen a lot of Megadeth shows I was at where things gone wrong and everything, and you always kept your cool. So seeing you pissed off like that, I go, damn, Dave's a good actor. David
really
is a
acting,
real good actor because I've never seen him actually get.
See, this is the time where I'm the top man and shit's not going right, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna whoop ass on you guys, get it together, you know. So I get to play that role. But yeah, you know, it's fun. Drew and I, it's funny. He brought the book, you know, brought that film to me, and I started writing this Rockstar Hitman book. You know, and I brought Drew in because of the film. He brought the film over, and he was working on editing that through 2020. And back in December 2019, I was in South America, and the idea came to me for that Rockstar Hitman book. So I brought Drew in to write that. And it was the same thing. You know, I was like, okay, I've got the characters lined out. I've got the storyline heading in the right direction. And I hit Drew. I said, hey, man, I could use, you know, some good heading, bloody stuff and, you know, all the good stuff in here. And boy, he wrote me a chapter one day, and I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. And I got so excited about the book. You know, it's nice that even when we're creating stuff together, like we, you know, have done now with the book series, that there's you know, it's just like in a band. There's a bass player and a guitar player. They do two different things, but they're working together. You know, and it's interesting in the creative realm when you're writing stuff together that, you know, you each do something very different. Which, you know, 1 + 1 is 3. You know, you're greater than the sum of the parts. So. Drew and I have had a good little creative partnership with this stuff, and so between the books and putting the Ellefson Book Company together now, and even that, it's kind of like the film and the record company. People are, I've had a couple people, rocker buddies of mine, hit me up and say, "Hey, I've got a memoir, and I've been thinking about writing my life story." And I said, "Totally. Let me know if we can help you. We've got a distribution network. We can put your book out for you if you need." Because that's the other thing. Once you write a book, now you got to go around the business, and usually with an agent, book companies are much more particular about that. Like, they don't let authors submit manuscripts.
That's true.
You have to have an agent. So you have to get an agent, then hopefully that you can get it shopped. So it's an extra step in the literary world. So there again with putting books out and to do some kind of self-published stuff, it's we've got that platform as well. Pretty happy with our little cottage industry up here.
Sure, yeah. Well, you guys have won what? I mean, 10 awards, I think it said. Best horror feature at Mad Monster. You and both of you guys even got best director and producer awards, right? Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, from the Vegas movie, Vegas Movie Awards. Yeah, they were very kind to do that. And it's actually, I think a couple more just came in too. And that was, Drew knows the landscape of the film business a little better than I do, and especially the horror genre, and in particular the found footage genre. I got a real education on found footage. I mean, I've we've done soundtracks for bigger budget movies and things. The Last Action Hero and Bill and Ted, and
you did narration too.
What's that?
Oh, yes.
The narration too for
the narration, exactly. And I've narrated but I've never had
job too.
I've never had thank you. I've never had any experience in the found footage genre, and it's so simple. I mean, there's no Panavision camera, there's no craft services, there's no like hair and makeup and wardrobe, all these other things. It's just pick up a camera, start shooting. There's the film, and it's a really. I mean, there's more to it than that. I mean, there's a storyline, and Drew's really good at sort of putting together Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and kind of having a timeline for it. There is some work to be done to create it properly, but there's a simplicity about it. I always likened it to like, it's like making Killing Is My Business. It's like the simple low dough. We don't have much time. We don't have much money. It's just plug and play. That's kind of what a found footage movie is like. Is you're in there kind of cutting your first low dough indie record, and that's and ultimately it's always about the story, and it's just kind of about the cleverness of the acting and all those bits.
Well, that's what I thought made the movie so cool and so authentic. Is it was a low budget movie, and you make it's very much like the Blair Witch Project, and it was a low budget movie, but it just went huge, and it's kind of got that same feel of just a panorama. I mean, just great filming, and the way that you did it. And I think it's just really cool that you and that Drew makes himself to be the idiot in the movie. He writes himself in to be the screw up in the movie, and which is great. And you talk about like like you're talking about how things in the movie, he forgets to get the licenses to filming licenses to do it, and all this other stuff. He's just a total royal fuck up. But
he's just the dunce. Fun. They'll do the whole thing. They're just like, oh, of course you did, bro. Like,
But it's so realistic on it's almost like the Spinal Tap of the horror movie genre. It's like people are watching this and they're probably going, is this is this a real movie, or is it an actual movie?
I've not seen Chud, and Drew said, he goes, dude, you got to go watch Chud, and then you'll really get a feel for what
I've heard a lot about that movie. I haven't seen it either.
I went and I watched, and you'll notice it. You'll notice some of the actors in it. The one guy from Home Alone, the dad in Home Alone, he's in that.
Okay.
And so you get kind of a good feel of it, and that actually doesn't seem like much of a big budget film either, quite honestly, but. It's it's fun now because we're actually talking about doing a couple of other things, around this, kind of continuing on from this, and it's fun when you like with anything, and you run up the flagpole, and just kind of unassumingly and out of nowhere people are saluting it, and again we're winning these film festival awards and all this cool stuff is happening, and it gets you excited to go, wow. maybe we should do another one, and different storyline, and so it gets you, gets you excited to go back in and we'll start working on another one.
What
now,
about
was that? Oh, I was just going to ask that movie. My Name Is Chris, or Her Name Is Krista. Was that through your company, or was that?
That was
separate
not.
that
No,
you
that
did?
was not. That was something that Drew did. That was a few years ago, I think, that he did that. Right, a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Great movie as well. He's got a sick mind, that boy.
He does, dude. Yeah. I always say, don't let his boyish good looks fool you for 1 minute. He's a demented little cretin.
Well, until he gets on, rather than talking more crap about him, were you going to say something there before we jump into?
Well, I was going to say, would you guys ever think about maybe turning, Rockstar Hitman into a film?
That was the first thing people asked us is, hey, when is the Netflix series? Because it really does speak to, to kind of a television production. And it's why we called it the Sledge Chronicles, because our main character, Sledge, who's the star of the book, we realized when we were writing this that, while this story could come to an end, the character can live on. And, so I thought, listen, as the musician tours around the world, there's all kinds of espionage and bad guys going on that, in Europe and South America, like we could get into some good stuff here, So yeah, we've already got the second book is probably about 75% done.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, Drew's got to do a little work on it now. It's over to him. But yeah, I went on a serious writing session and just kind of banged a lot of that out back in last fall. I was just crushing it and getting it all lined out. So he's going to get into that and get that going. And it's funny because on the cover that's actually Vin Dombrowski from Sponge.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
yeah. He
really,
and it's funny. There's a story to that because me and Drew, Drew and Mike Heller, who plays drums in Raven and Fear Factory, they were writing some tunes together. And last summer, Drew says, "Hey, me and Mike are working on a couple tunes. Want to play bass on one?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not? We're all sitting around the house. Nobody's doing anything, So he sent it over to me. I played on it. I was like, "That was a cool little song." And he goes, "Well, here, you want to play in another one?" And he sends me over like 10 more. And so finally we just decided, look, let's just go to LA. We'll go to Mike Keller's studio in LA, and why don't we record it? And Drew reached out to Vinny, and Vin lives up in Michigan, and so Vin was in, and he started writing lyrics for it and doing some demos. And so we have this collection of 9 songs, and we always thought we'd go, man, it's like this sort of companion record to the movie, because some of Vin went into the book and took some lyric inspiration from the book, and even a couple of things that tie into Dwellers. So we're actually going to make an announcement about that here, I don't know, sometime in the coming weeks, about where that record's going to kind of fit in. So we'll have a movie, an album, and a book, that'll all come out as a companion together. Yeah, which is pretty cool. It just kind of landed in our lap like that. Because we were kind of wondering what to do with this record. It's like, look, we're not, we don't want to go build this as, the next big super group or any crap, you know what I mean? And, and none of us, we're going to go on tour, obviously. So it's kind of like, what do we do with it? So, to kind of couch it in with the book and the movie, it made the most sense, because that really is the backstory of it. And, and we'll put it out through EMP Label Group, so we can, control it and kind of manage the flow of it and everything. So it's, again, it's as it's turning out, the days of the $1 million record deals are over anyway. It's nice to kind of do this stuff independently like this, because it just gives you all this flexibility and control, and you can kind of traffic cop and kind of control the flow of when and where these things come out. And labels always get pissed off. They're like, wait a minute, you can't play on that album. We're putting this album out, and we got too much stuff out there. And wait a minute, what's this book? That book's taking attention away from our album that we're putting out. So in this case, it's almost like the more the merrier. It all tells part of a bigger story. It's more of a big banquet here. It's kind of a cool thing for 2021. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, that's a great thing about you now. You have total control of everything: the book publishing, the movies, your music, your own record label, and that's a dream come true for most musicians to have. And the fact that and I can't wait to hear that album. Mike Heller's one hell of a drummer.
Yeah, you'll like
can't
it. You'll
wait
like
to hear
it.
the book too.
Yeah, it's a kind of an. I mean, I love Sponge. I remember back, in the '90s when Megadeth was doing a lot of the radio records like Cryptic Writings and Risk and stuff, and that was in the days of Seven Dust and Creed, and Sponge was a big part of Meat Puppets and all these bands that were coming out back in that day, and Sponge was always right there. Great songs, and Vin's a cool guy and great singer. So yeah, it was fun to collaborate, a little out of school, you know what I mean? Not just a metal collective, and Drew's a fantastic songwriter and guitar player. I knew he played in Bang Tango for a couple minutes, and he'd done some stuff with Steven Chirot from Kick Tracy. But on this record, I'm like, wow, he's what a tasty guitar player and just clever songwriting. I was very impressed with it. So
yeah. Now, have you and Drew ever played before together? Or is this? I mean, how do you know Drew? How did you guys ever connect?
We haven't, and it's funny because we have now on the record, but of course you make records now in the pandemic. Like we're doing this interview, right?
True, yeah.
Indianapolis, Arizona, LA, Detroit. That's how we made that record. And I've made, I don't know, 4 records like that this last year, in different areas. And I guess when you're experienced, and we've made records like this, and we're experienced players, and we've got the gear at our houses, we can pull it off. When you're younger, there's no way you could pull off making records like this. But so Drew and I, have not actually been in a room plugged in and fired it up and hung out for an afternoon writing songs together or anything. But what's interesting is he's actually playing guitar for me on the Bass Chronicles tour coming up here in September.
Oh, very cool.
It hit me. I needed another guitar player. I've had Bumblefoot out with me when we've done some Ellefson stuff, but he's out doing his own shows right now. And then it just hit me one day. I was like, just call Drew. It's like, we just made an album together. So I said, hey, would you want to help out and come out and play guitar and kind of be my right-hand man on some stuff? And he was thrilled, to because we're going to go into some deep cuts and play some things that have never made it to the stage, and a bunch of my deeper cut stuff from my Sleeping Giants album. We're going to get into a few things. There's that one track, I don't know, Bob, if you heard it, If You Were God, that I had John Bush sing on.
Yes, I did. That was awesome. Yeah.
Back in 1993.
I was going to say, you did that way back in the day, and I was thinking that was what, just when he joined Anthrax, or just prior to?
Yes, I think he had just what is it, 93? Yeah, I think he had just joined. He was singing. Yeah. And it's funny, I hit him up. We've all kind of grown up together, of course, all of us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And
well, you were in LA at the time, yeah.
Yeah, in LA. Yep. And he came over to my friend Pat's house. That's John Bush at 10 in the morning, singing, roaring like a lion.
Any time of the day, he said.
Yeah, any time of the day, John Bush on demand. He's fucking awesome. He sounds great. So, but yeah, so the Bass Chronicle thing is cool, and it's funny. We themed it around the Sledge Chronicles, Bass Chronicles, because every one of these I had Bass Story, and that started, excuse me, when I pushed out my first memoir, My Life with Death. That became Bass Story, which was our friend Ryan Downey, our manager, friend in the business. He rang me one day. It was right before I recorded the Dystopia album back in 2014. He hit me up. He said, "Hey, I got a promoter down in Australia. Excuse me, who wants to bring you down there to do kind of like a spoken word thing." I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. Hey, he's back. There he is.
There he is.
So sorry about that.
Email. All right, cool.
Hey, so a little inside scoop. Drew's day job is he fixes computers. So
you're right. Yeah. I attribute this to. It's funny. Out of the blue, Joel Estate was texting me out of the blue today, so I completely blame him.
Yeah. He's the voodoo that made your computer crash.
Yeah, he's the voodoo that made a lot of things happen in my life.
Joe from Bang Tango, obviously.
Yeah.
We're actually saying a lot of good stuff about you. And
we managed to fill a half an hour just talking about Drew. It was incredible. I'll finish this up, and then we'll turn it over to Drew, and I'll shut up for a while. But no, so the Bass Story thing started around going to Australia for the My Life with Death book. Storyteller Bass Clinic, we called it Bass Story. And then 2 years ago, when we put out the second book, More Life with Death, that's what that tour was called. And then now with this new book, with the Sledge Chronicles, that's why we're calling it the Bass Chronicles. So we're sort of theming these sort of storyteller little solo tours. We're theming them around the book that's out at the time.
And when is that tour starting? In September? You already have dates set up for September.
Yeah. What is it, Drew? Like 22nd through 26th or something like that?
I think 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th, I believe, or the 23rd. It's something around that time. Yeah, it's like a long weekend.
You could go on davidellefson.com. Yeah, I know the tour dates
Yes,
are up.
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
They
cool.
know more over there than we do over here.
So that is that kind of a combination of a spoken word, kind of like almost like a clinic kind of.
Well, I learned when I went to
I play the
Australia.
bongos and he tells poetry.
Nice.
Fortunately, when I went to Australia, my tour manager, I was like, he had done spoken word with a bunch of comedians and various people, and of course, to me, spoken word is like something like Henry Rollins, And then I realized half of the Henry Rollins thing was he was just out there telling jokes, and of course, he's got all kinds of different political things, and he's very outspoken, and I've seen some of his. It's actually really funny. So I was, again, that's why I'd say, look, if in doubt, bring the bass along. My bass is my companion. It can get me out of most any mess I can get myself into. I can just play my way out of it, So that's why I figured, look, I'll bring the bass. So I kind of did this bass clinic thing, and then I had a backing band behind me. And so as I brought it here to North America, and then we took it over to Europe, I took it down to South America, same thing. Just to have a backing band behind me. So here on the Bass Chronicles, we'll do the same thing, with Drew and a couple of the guys from Dead by Wednesday who are on Combat Records. We've got a nice set list, and so it's music. It's primarily music, but there's some, some storytelling and stuff in between. It's not like, hey, we're here to melt your face and then just play an hour of music and kick your ass. There's nice tempo flow, doing some storytelling in between. Even some Q&A. Yeah, a little bit of Q&A. Yeah, and this one we're going to try to do a chronological thing as well, so that hence the Chronicles. We'll try to be, more of a chronological flow through music throughout my career.
And playing some stuff you never played live before too.
Yep, exactly.
Ooh,
yeah.
Like cover tunes or Megadeth tunes or what kind?
Well, yeah, we did
out?
a little bit of both. I did the Ellefson cover record
album,
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice because, when people ask me, who are your musical influences, like, well, there it is.
Yeah.
There's like all 18 of them right there.
Of bands,
Yeah, Nazareth, BTO, Sweet,
Bachman Turner Overdrive rules.
BTO, come on.
Favorite band,
on.
Not Fragile. Still, I tell people one of my top 10 all-time favorite metal albums. So it's not metal.
Isn't that funny, man? I mean, more and more people that say that. In fact, I think James Hetfield he talked about that, I don't know, a dozen years or so ago. People were asking him kind of about his vocal influence. And he brought up BTO.
Turner, man. That guy was a monster vocalist.
Oh, yeah. And we're all kind of the same age, me and you at least.
Oh, they were huge. When we grew up, they were all over the radio, but everyone thinks about them as, taking care of business and you ain't seen nothing yet. But some of their, B-sides, so to speak, like
super heavy.
Sweet had those super heavy B-sides.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen to Not Fragile and some of the other songs off that album.
Yeah.
Great.
So we're going to pull some songs off that record. We'll pull some of those into the show because, there's a few of those like Wasted. I mean, man, I was a teenager. When that came into the rehearsal room, my drummer brought it in, we were all like 15, 16 years old, and the Def Leppard guys were
15,
teenagers.
16 too. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, wow, these guys can do it. And they're on Mercury Records, the back of On Through the Night, they're on stage opening for AC/DC. You're like, wow. They made it like, they made it the dream possible. It's like
they were a big inspiration, especially for a lot of the thrash metal musicians. People don't credit Def Leppard, and they always credit them as the hair band. But Def Leppard and a lot of the new wave of British heavy metal bands. But their youth, I mean, I think Rick Allen was 15 when he recorded that record. And,
oh my God, yeah, the stutter kick that he had on his and his style that he had on those first two records, and especially on Through the Night, man, what an incredible drummer. You're right, he's 15. Yeah, he's a 15. Records that sound like him and Clive Burr, of course.
Sure.
Maiden. Those two guys were just amazing. The new wave of British heavy metal. I mean, those guys just had a style about them that was incredible.
Absolutely.
No.
And then you had all the thrash guys like Andy from Death Angel that started at 13, 14. So yeah, they were definitely a big inspiration. But Drew, why don't we go back to? Was there something you wanted to talk to him about the movie there, Matt? I know.
Well, no, we were just talking earlier before we got kicked out. About the comedic parts with him, Doug, and James. What's evident, I think, is that the three of you guys definitely, you guys have to have a pretty good friendship outside of the movie, because you can kind of tell with the chemistry between you three. The three of you guys are really. It reminds me of Swingers. It reminds me of like Vince Vaughn,
right?
Vince Vaughn, John Favreau, and the other guy who plays the guy Sue. But yeah, exactly. But it's great to see the independent film thing like this come back, where in the '90s it was so big, and up until I guess the mid 2000s. Is this something that you guys are trying to sort of, I guess, tap into? I mean, is there still a big market out there for a lot of independent films like there used to be, back in those days? Or
there's just like with music, everything is kind of branched off into genre upon subgenre. So there's all kinds of stuff. There's a whole like underground market for the found footage stuff, and with this one, it's been really interesting just kind of seeing how people are kind of taken to it, because I was just happy to get the thing done when I had it done, and I was like, it doesn't make any more sense to me. Hopefully, it makes sense to everybody else, and just kind of I didn't really think it was gonna end up the way it did as far as all the accolades and everything, and we just kind of threw it into a couple of film festivals. Next thing you know, it got selected. Then it won some awards and all that. This is crazy, but yeah, as far as the independent film stuff, all this stuff just kind of happens organically. It's just kind of, I got like at one point I got like just like a bug in my ass to make another movie, even though after the Bang Tango one, I was like, I'd never do it again, and I thought it'd be really cool to involve David in it as well, because he's fearless when it comes to collaboration, and we were able to put our heads together and make something really, really cool. And it's so far, I mean, we're still really far out from the October release date, and it's getting a lot of really good traction so far, and that's just blowing my mind. I was just happy to get the thing done. Everything else is just kind of an added bonus. And it's funny with James and Doug. Doug was actually Chuck Mosley's manager up until he passed away.
Oh, and I know you played with Chuck, right?
I did, I loved Chuck very much. He was a dear friend, and I remember toward the end, it was just kind of like he had all these just hopes and just wants and all these things that he was ready to get out and do, and then unfortunately what happened. But he's I got a lot of great Chuck Mosley stories. I didn't know him for that long, but we got pretty close pretty quick, and it's amazing how certain people in your life you could get that close to that quick, and really be on that level personally. But Doug was Chuck Mosley's manager, and James, I knew him from when I was a kid. There's this movie from the 90s called Bloodletting that he was in, shot on video. The story is amazing. It's about this girl who tracks down the serial killer that blackmails him to teach her how to be a serial killer. It's awesome. So I highly recommend that. And ironically, the first time the three of us were in a room was during a Chuck Mosley band practice at Chuck Mosley's apartment, because Chuck lived in Ohio, as is Doug and James. And James came to Chuck's house to let me know that I got the part in the movie. Her name is Krista. So the bond between the three of us kind of formed that day, and just kind of unfolded naturally from there. And then when it came to getting Dwellers kind of worked out story wise and everything, it'd be like, it would be perfect, just to jive with as people and characters would be James and Doug, because the three of us kind of have a cool rapport. James being kind of like the, is the no BS, is kind of straightforward kind of guy, but sarcastic as hell. And Doug is just kind of like, Doug's kind of like a goofy, like Daniel Stern kind of guy, and he's just kind of fun to have around. And it's just, and the three of us just kind of, a lot of the movie was improv too. And it was a blast to do. And I got probably about 3 completely different movies worth of footage with all the stuff we shot and everything. And this is just a version that kind of, made the most sense, like as tight as humanly possible. And believe it or not, me, Doug, and James were only in the tunnel for 1 day, and most of that's overdubs. And it was crazy. But there's my very long answer for your very short question.
Yeah, no.
Talk a little bit. Oh, I was going to say, just explain a little bit about the found footage. Is that like a new genre? Because I know David mentioned, I've heard that term thrown recently quite a bit before. I want you to explain to the viewers.
Sure. Well, it originated. Actually, the first one to kind of put it on the map actually predates Blair Witch by a bit. It's called Cannibal Holocaust, which is a really Italian, messed up Italian horror movie.
Italian, yeah.
And it's about this people coming across this footage that this documentary crew had who went into the jungles of South America to go, study cannibals, and then cannibals kind of, took them over and ate them. And so there's that kind of was like a precursor to it by like 20 years, and then Blair Witch came out, and that just exploded. And then there's that Cloverfield Chronicle, and then it started getting a bit too slick, like the found footage stuff. It's all from the perspective of the camera, but with the way those movies started to get shot in the big Hollywood kind of way, you could tell it was like $1 million camera. It was like
when they do those sequels like Blair Witch 2, it's like,
right,
I ruined something.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought it was cool. It would be cool to just kind of go back to be as gritty as humanly possible. And if you watch the movie too, there's a dead pixel. You could see in the dark scenes. You see this like white dot on the screen, and I could have fixed it, but I was like, hey, that adds to the realism. It was a crappy camera, Right. And a lot of the sound stuff I left alone. And apart from the tough stuff was like the stuff I had to create, I did all the creature noises, and I had to put them in there, very just enough so it sounded like there was something there, but not too apparent to where it sounded like it was fake. Just like with like special effects, because if you stare at like a decapitated head for more than like a second and a half, you're gonna know it's fake. So that's why every time you see something happen, it's just in an instant. It's really quick. Because it's like the Psycho with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where if you think back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that first one, you think of all these gory scenes and all that, but there's not like one drop of blood that whole movie really. It's just your mind kind of fills in the blanks, And so I just kind of just really wanted to take that and just kind of make it more about the sound design more than anything, and just when you're in a dark tunnel, you kind of maybe see something that's there, hear something that's there that's not really there, and man, I go off on tangents, don't I? But
that's all good.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
It's for yeah.
And
David had enough film time.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm just in the bleachers now listening. Yeah. I'm learning about this movie that Drew made. I learn stuff every time we do these interviews. Drew fills me in on his Spielbergism.
and the and another thing too, it's like there's a lot of tiny things in the movie that probably most of which I'd be the only one to have noticed. But like if you go back and watch it again and kind of pick it apart a little bit, like little things that kind of overshadow other things, and the whole cat aspect too. You hear the cat meowing, and that's and if you go back and watch it again, and me and Doug are walking through the tunnel and we hear it, it's actually the creature. Because then you find out later on it's actually the creature that mimics the sound of the cat to lure people in, and so I'm just glad people got that part of for the most part, because at the very end what happens. I hear what I hear, and that's it mimicking that. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's one really cool thing is that people are talking about it like as if it's a legitimate movie. It's like it got to that point after editing and sound and all that and everything else. It's like people are taking it serious as a legitimate movie. Aside from like just a random thing I just ended up throwing together from a bunch of stuff I shot over 5-9 consecutive days over the summer of 2019. And it's just so strange but fun at the same time, just to how just that little bit of work you just kind of just whittle it down and turn it into something like this, and then people react to it the way they have been, and so that's been really fun and fulfilling too, and I'm glad people get the jokes, and
good balance of humor in it.
And it's funny with the Clerks joke too.
That was great. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
And James, he actually gets mistaken for Brian Haller from
Does
Clash
he
all the
really?
time.
Okay.
And it got to a point where them two had like a friendly like back and forth via mail. And Brian O'Halloran actually sent James an 8x10 of James signed by Brian O'Halloran that says cease and desist.
Oh, nice.
And but yeah, I mean, if you guys, I could just go on and on and on. But like any questions you guys have, like please.
Well, yeah. In terms of locations of filming, I mean, I saw that you shot there pretty a lot of different cities. You shot this film in, right? It wasn't just one or two locations, right? It was all over the place, right?
Yeah. One of the homeless people, Fred Hussar, he plays the one with the train going in the background. He's kind of hard to hear. He's in Chicago. He's actually an old customer. Yeah. Oh, that's Bob. That's Bob Caldecott, the masturbator.
That's not me.
Oh yeah, you got a cookie?
Okay.
Oh man, we should get into that one. But Fred Hussar, he's the big dude. He's got like the pink reddish shirt. He's got the hat on. He's kind of sitting there. He's actually I bartended for about a decade before I got into any of this, and he was one of my regular customers. He was actually an actor way back when. He was the actor. He was in Mad Dog and Glory with De Niro and all that, and he kind of got out of it and he retired. And I just went back to Chicago and shot his part. And we found this cool like train tracks with a train actually coming by at the exact moment, and we just shot it. And it sounds kind of crappy, but it kind of works, because if it sounded perfect, then it's like when you create something like art, like you draw a perfect circle, and all the uneven parts is what the art is, because it keeps it different from everything else. And separates itself. But yeah, so that was one thing in Chicago. I think I shot something in Indianapolis. I must have. David scene that was shot in Springfield, Illinois. We actually reshot it since, though. There's a new David scene that's even better. And we ended up shooting in North Carolina while we were at the Mad Monster party to show the movie. And
hence the beauty of Blu-ray. Now we can have different versions, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, it's funny because that shot we did that literally was the last day of our tour. So
you're right. Yeah.
And complaining that it's the last day of our tour. It really was, and we were heading out to go to the. We were going to the show, I think, right?
Yeah. You guys were getting ready. You're kind of wrapping up everything, the whole tour and all that.
We weren't even lying.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Here, Drew, leave us alone. Yeah.
Drive back to Indianapolis. But the new one we shot though, it's even better. It's a little bit longer, and it even ties the story together even more. Like kind of lays out the plot a little bit more, like brings the stakes up higher. And David's even more angry in it as well. So it's a lot.
Nice.
It's wonderful. I mean, I showed it to. I'll show it to you guys after this. But everybody showed it to. Absolutely love it. But that could just be released on its own as its own like short film.
It'll be our NFT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's actually going to be
the Angry Ellefson.
Yeah, exactly.
Angry Ellefson.
Angry Ellefson.
Again, it's Angry Ellefson.
Sorry, Angry Aiken, you've been out-ruined by Angry Ellefson. Hey,
Angry Ellefson.
Drew, I wanted to ask you this. Speak about found footage movies. One of the first I saw, it's a foreign movie. It's a French-Belgium movie called Man Bites Dog. Oh, you saw it. Brilliant movie. And I know you have a sick mind. Of course you've seen it. But I don't know if you guys have seen it before. I've actually got it on a videotape. And that must have been done, I guess, early 90s or so.
I guess that was a film project for like a college final or something like that.
But it really set the bar for Blair Witch Project and your movie where just, at the end, I love the way they just show the video camera going after the guy,
Oh, yeah.
He's still filming and then just cuts off, It's like, whoa. And you actually think it's real. It's just like a real, the acting, that guy's, whoever he is a brilliant actor.
Oh, yeah.
He just goes on this murder spree and he's like smiling and hitting people with the head with a hammer in their house. It's like a Clockwork Orange time.
Singing in the
rain. Exactly.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. And that's part of the fun of it, too, because like it's all from the point of view of the documentary cameras. You just catching whatever that catches. Even when like in Dwellers, when the hobo mugs us. Right. Funny thing about that, the hobo that mugs us, his name is Dustin Bolches. He's the drummer for Skeleton Witch.
Oh wow!
Oh whoa!
Okay.
Damn.
And so that I don't think I even realized it till after, because he's just a friend of mine from out in Indiana. And
musicians and horror movies go hand in hand. Right?
Yeah, totally.
It's like a whole new cross culture here. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And
the drummer who mugs us. That's like a movie itself.
It's a story of my life. And And let's see, but oh yeah, and we also shot in the tunnel was in Cincinnati. It's this old railroad tunnel. It was built in like the 1800s.
So you live in Ohio, right, Drew?
No, I'm in Indiana.
Oh, you are in Indiana. Okay.
I born and raised in Chicago, though. Chicago,
Right.
yeah.
Chicago.
The Bears.
Nice.
And let's see what, but yeah, the point of view stuff from the documentary camera and everything. It's and we could have done it like straight faced and like try to market it like Blair Witch, where it's like, oh, what happened to Drew, James, and Doug,
Right.
But I'm too goofy for that stuff, man. You know, so I just kind of just have fun with it, and we all play ourselves, like an amplified version of ourselves, and just kind of.
I don't think you'd get away with it now. But when that came out, because I remember seeing Blair Witch when it was actually a screener copy I had.
Ooh.
And the way they promoted it, do you remember that? They had like interviews of the family of the members.
Yeah, they had like a documentary.
Documentary, like they're suing the company for putting this out, and you think it's real. Like, hey, I don't want this about my daughter. She filmed this. And so you're thinking it's actual film footage from a real life thing. And so when I first saw it, I'm going, this can't be real. This has got to be a Hollywood thing. But the marking on it was brilliant. I think that's what made it so. But yeah, once that's done, you can't really do it again. It's
right, exactly. Well, one big difference between Blair Witch and this one as well is that the Blair Witch, their budget was, I believe, before the movie got bought and picked up and everything, $10,000.
Yeah.
The budget for this one, $0.
Wow,
beautiful.
Zero. Huh?
Beautiful.
Damn.
Yeah.
Everybody had to buy their own McDonald's, like no freebies.
Yeah, I remember Doug when we did the one day in the tunnel. Doug went out and bought everybody White Castle, so kind of it all worked out.
Nice.
It was
It's like
$0 because
he robbed the White Castle.
Big. Yeah.
He robbed the. I was like, dude, we got to keep the budget down, so he put on a ski mask and he ran to White Castle among the joint. So.
Didn't you rob Ellefson of the budget?
What's that?
Didn't you rob Ellefson of the budget? Isn't that why you're so pissed off?
That's why I'm pissed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We
So
actually
it ended up being $0.
Yeah,
but you
there's zero
pocketed
budget
the
except the
10,000.
money that I put in at the beginning, and that went missing, just like the characters, just like the
Drew-
homeless people. My money went missing.
It's like, Drew, what is this $14 bullshit?
I gave you $20. Where's my film? Damn it!
And my change?
Yeah, and my French fries. You son of a bitch.
Well, listen, I know you got to jump. David, was there anything else you wanted to throw in, Matt? But I wanted to kind of go over talk about your other projects. You got your billion projects. And just touch up a little bit about what's going on with Megadeth at the moment. Since everyone's curious.
Well, we put out, about a month ago, we put out Swords and Tequila, me and Jeff Scott Soto.
Version.
And so we tipped our hand that me and Jeff are working on a record. That record is essentially written and done, and we should have some updates on that. We worked really hard. We started on that at the end of January, so we've been just crushing on that.
That's going to be awesome.
Really good. Yeah, you guys, I think, are all going to
Jeff
love
is
it.
amazing.
Yeah, so we rocked on that one. Megadeth album 16 being worked on now. It's we've been taking our time, Dave. When we started it a couple years ago, Dave was just like, look, I want to take the time and listen, and I think the feeling was kind of like we're always in between a tour. Let's get another album done. There's summer festivals next year. We got to always be sort of meeting deadlines, and this was one. Who knew? Obviously the pandemic, and then Dave went through his throat cancer treatments, and obviously that was unexpected. So we've had a couple years sort of knocked out from under us with this album operating in the background. We had the Mega Cruise, of course, that we did, and so my solo band stepped up and essentially kind of became the house band on that one, to cover for Dave not being able to be there and not being, an official Megadeth performance. But we had a lot of fun. I put together a big jam, an all-star jam with everybody playing Kiss songs, which was actually Frank Bellows' idea. I called Frank and I said, man, I'm putting together this Saturday night all-star jam, and I said it's looking too much like a Metal Allegiance set, and I don't want it to just be a bunch of heavy metal songs. I want it to be something fun. He goes, hey, you can always do Kiss songs. Everybody loves Kiss songs. I go, God, you know what? That's brilliant. So it's funny, between Frank and Charlie Venante, we basically put the set together, and I kind of tasked Charlie to be my MD, my musical director, and kind of, get the thing together, because I was running around, as were Kiko and Dirk. We were kind of running around being the hosts.
So who played bass? You or Frankie, or did you both play bass on?
We all did. Yeah, we all did. I played on, probably about half, and Frank did a bunch, and then Chuck Garrick, Beasto Blanco, they were there, so he played on some stuff. Doro's band jumped in on some stuff. So, and of course, it was kind of convenient. I was able to sort of write Altitudes and Attitude into the show, which was funny with that because Todd from Queensryche, singer of Queensryche, he was our drummer. He's
a great drummer. Yeah, he's
a great drummer. My God, amazing. He's as good of a drummer as he is a singer.
Yeah, he played drums on the last Queensryche record, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So we had him play drums for me and Frank. So yeah, that was fun. So the Mega Cruise was cool. But yeah, so just between that year and then of course the pandemic, we did the tour with Five Finger Death Punch, which was a big sports arena tour across Europe, which was really great. I mean,
did you finish off that tour? Was it the complete tour?
Yep. No, we finished it up, and then we came home. That was kind of like late February. We got home in time. The pandemic was kind of bubbling up about a week or so behind us. It was weird because the smallest venue we played was about a 4,000 seat, more of a nightclub in Italy, in Milan, because it was a full blown. It was an arena tour. I mean, it was scaled to be kind of like a 10,000 seat sports arenas, which is what we did every night, except Milan. And then of course we get home 2 weeks later, and northern Italy got hit the worst, with the pandemic. So we're all like going, "Yikes, man, that was close." But I mean, we home and then I just got busy with the Ellefson record and the No Cover record, and Megadeth stuff kind of operating in the background. And like I said, Drew editing the film. Drew and I finished up the Rockstar Hitman book, and so last year was kind of
that
like
other thing too.
What's that? Go ahead.
And that other thing too.
No, I told him about that while you were doing the band. Yeah, the record that we've got coming out.
You missed all that, dude.
I forgot I dropped out for a minute.
Yeah. By the way, Drew, there's a record coming out that you're on.
Is there?
Yeah.
I'm on it. When did I do that?
Yeah.
That's
So
what we're
it's
talking
good.
shit about.
It's been a couple of years of just really, creating a lot of content, and it's been fun, man. Me just say yes to things, and sure, why not? Let's go
Dude,
do
you
that.
seem to say yes to everything. You are the busy. I don't know how you do it personally. I mean, between you did the new No Covers record, you got the band with Drew going on now, you got your book deal, you got the record label, EMP Records, you got, of course, Megadeth. And then you got to give it to Dave Mustaine for allowing you to do all this. I mean, most major bands like that would not give permission for another artist to do so many different projects because it dilutes the project. But everything you do is kind of related, and I think it helps out, the whole.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where you bring up a good point. And I always bring everything back home, to Megadeth. I always do. I don't ever sort of go out and say, hey, I'm going to go be my own guy. I'm very clearly an anchor guy in Megadeth. This is my home. It's good to be back home. So in our down cycles, in our down months, I do these things, and I've learned over the years. Look, sometimes unexpected stuff happens. In 2002, suddenly Dave called me up and said, "Hey, man, I'm stepping away from Megadeth." It was like, whoa, and the band was over. You know what I mean? And it's interesting because we had our deal with Sanctuary Records right at that time, and I was actually out on the World Needs a Hero tour looking for various bands to produce and maybe bring into an imprint that Sanctuary had given us that opportunity, and it just didn't happen yet at that time.
Dave did have an imprint label for a minute, didn't he?
He did, yeah. But even farther back with Sanctuary, which would have been 2001, 2002, we had an opportunity with them, and so that was kind of where I got started looking for groups to produce and develop, do these things, and and then in kind of during the 2000s is when I got busy with that. Of course, they had F5 and a few other things, and I was producing and working on some things. And so when I came back to Megadeth in 2010, that it was great to be back home. And obviously we had, a great decade together. But, I've just learned it's, look, we're at a place where obviously, look, Megadeth is the established legacy group that it is. But, with having these couple of years here to, that we've had these unexpected, little, down cycles between health stuff and the pandemic, this is the time to do this stuff. Because once Megadeth ramps up, that's not the time to do it. I don't have the bandwidth and the thought power to do it, So this is the season to do it. And I've been cranking away at it, and I should probably go on vacation here quick, because then we're going to be on tour.
Much needed vacation.
We're going to be on tour, and then then it's about that. Just going, I should probably book a vacation and like just turn all this stuff off and go away for a while. So maybe I'll do that.
And it's probably a blessing that nothing ever happened with Sanctuary, because as a record label, they did nothing. As management, of course, with Maiden, they were huge, but they just could not.
Yeah.
And they had some big bands as a label. They absorbed CMC and they had a lot of things, but they just could not make it. I don't know if it was because of the era, because that was during the changeover when the whole downloading thing happened. But I think you're at a very good place with EMP Records, where you're in complete control. You got Combat Records, which you revived, which is such an influential label, especially for thrash metal back in the 80s. People, everyone talks about, the Metal Blade and Megaforce, but Combat was obviously right up there with those. Probably more active, obviously, and they're putting out all sorts of stuff. And, your book publishing company and then your movies you're doing, man. You are just going gung-ho there, Mr. Ellefson.
You made me tired just listening to it.
Anything we missed, or anything you wanted to throw in there, Matt, before we
I wanted to ask Drew, he brought up, Chuck Mosley before. I know you were working on like a documentary about Chuck. That's something you still planning on putting out, or is that kind of on the back
that one's on the back burner at the moment, unfortunately. It's because actually it was like one of the last times I talked to Chuck, he wanted to do the documentary, and I remember he called me up and left me a voicemail, which it was how he announced the documentary, and something we always used to do with each other. We used to talk to each other in the Bane voice, the Batman villain Bane. He's like, Chuck Mosley, Mr. Fortier. So we used to just call each other, be like, Mr. Mosley. And he left me a voicemail like, Mr. Fortier. And he told me he wanted to do the movie and move forward with it. He was really excited about it. And then he passed. And it's messed up because the way he went, it feels like not much closure was had because it was so sudden and abrupt, Mm-hmm. And we want to do the movie to showcase his legacy, not as a Faith No More tale, but as a Chuck Mosley tale. Of course, Faith No More is a part of it, but he had a very interesting life. I remember, one of the first days I got to know him, he just started spilling his guts on his life story, and he was like he was such an emotional character and a true artist. Like you could tell, everything just came from the heart. So, But yeah, so it's just kind of been just floating around the background for that documentary, just kind of waiting for the right time, and not going to force it. I mean, I've been talking to some of the Faith No More guys about it, and they're, they're into it for sure. It's just kind of just waiting for, out of respect for his family, because his family was like, please do it, that'd be terrific. And but even so, it just still doesn't feel right to dive into it yet. But I'm sure someday soon it's called Thanks and Sorry. The Chuck Mosley movie, and awesome. we did do one interview so far with Matt Wallace, and he offered to do it right after Chuck passed, and it's a very, very, very heart-wrenching interview. And as I'm getting somber thinking about it, so it's probably still going to be a minute before I dive into that one. Cool. We all miss Chuck very much. He was loved by everybody for sure.
Awesome, great,
awesome, man. Well, cool. I guess we're good. Anything else?
Thank you guys. Appreciate
it. We're good, man. Thank you all. DavidEllefson.com.
Thanks, guys.
And Drew, do you have anything? Your websites through your movie?
Watch the movie Sleeping Dogs Lie. And
I didn't have to throw that in. You sick.
David did this movie. Bob, well, first of all, it was my fault because Bob watched. Her name was Krista, and he was like, "You sick fuck." And I was like, I didn't make it. I was just in it. And then he told me about this movie called Sleeping Dogs Lie. It's directed by Bobcat Goldthwait. Oh, yeah. And I don't know if you want to tell David the plot of the movie.
Well, I would here, but I got my brother's family
gotcha.
here, and that might be a little bit.
I'll text it to you, David.
I'll say it's a sick mind. Well, it's on Amazon.
I'll look it up.
No,
I'll look it
check
up.
it out. It kept coming on my like queue as something recommended. And it's like, all right. I'll follow
Just based on the description, I ended up buying the DVD off of eBay. I found a copy, and it was totally
I'll go
worth
shopping
it.
tonight on Amazon or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
But
you turned out to that movie Father's Day with Robin Williams, another Bobcat Goldthwait movie, which was also dark and sick,
wasn't it?
twisted. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That guy's got a sicker mind than you. I think you've got some work to do there.
Work is in therapy.
Exactly. That's
All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks so much.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you guys so
Take
much.
care.
Yeah, fellas.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.